Hello all. Today we're going to learn about a Swiss luxury tobacco goods brand name Davidoff. Most of us have already heard about this company. Let us know this company in a much better way. Davidoff is a Swiss luxury tobacco goods brand name which is carried by a range of products including cigars, cigarillos, cigarettes and pipe tobaccos. Its cigarette brand is currently owned by Imperial Tobacco, but the company is otherwise independently owned. Zino Davidoff was born on March 11, 1906 in Novhorod, Siversky, Russian Empire, present-day Ukraine, to a Jewish family. He was the eldest of 4 children born to tobacco merchant Luciano Davidoff. Even in his own autobiographical writings, the facts on his youth are a bit hazy as he was quite young during this time and could only piece together some stories of his youth. His parents were either cigar merchants or cigarette manufacturers in Kiev. Fleeing the political turmoil, his parents left some of their family behind and immigrated to Geneva, Switzerland in 1911 for a better life, where they opened their own tobacconist shop in 1912. Finishing school in 1924, Zino went to Latin America to learn about the tobacco trade, spending time in such places as Argentina, Brazil and finally Cuba, where he spent 2 years working on a plantation and first encountered Cuban cigars. Returning to Switzerland around 1930, he took over his parents' shop. What had originally been a modest tobacco shop grew into a rich business during and after World War II. Neutral Switzerland was spared much of the havoc created elsewhere in Europe and became a haven for wealthy tobacco customers. Zino was particularly successful in marketing the Hoyo de Monterrey Chateau series of Cuban cigars created for Zurich cigar distributor, other corporation, in the 1940s and named after great Bordeaux wines. Around this time, Zino is also credited by many as having invented the first desk-top cigar humidor in order to preserve cigars at the same conditions of humidity and temperature under which they were rolled in Havana. Davidoff also had success writing several books on cigar smoking and Cuban cigar brands. In 1970, Zino sold his small but highly successful tobacco shop in Geneva to Max Ottenegger Company. Zino stayed on as Davidoff's ambassador until his death in 1994 at the age of 87. He was survived by his wife, a daughter and his 3 siblings. Max Ottenegger Company, which took over Davidoff, was founded in 1875 and was one of the first importers of Havana cigars to Europe, selling its wares in France, Germany and Switzerland. Headed by the Swiss-born Ernest Schneider, Ottenegger paid in excess of $1 million for the Davidoff's shop, considered by many at the time to be an exorbitant price. In 1967, Davidoff was approached by Cuba Tobacco, Cuba's state tobacco monopoly after the revolution, about creating a personal brand of cigars for his stores. The cigars were rolled in the newly established El Laguto factory in Havana, which had been established to roll Cuban President Fidel Castro's own private cigars, Cohiba. In 1968, the first productions of Davidoff cigars were released, which included the No. 1, the No. 2 and Ambassadrice, which all shared the same sizes as the early Cohiba line, and the Chateau series, now no longer under the Hoyo de Monterrey label but exclusively made for the Davidoff mark. In the 1970s, the Mill series, a milder blend than the rest of the line, and the Dom Perignon, named for the famous champagne, were released on the market. In 1986, a special limited release of 80 Aniversarios cigars were made to celebrate Zino's 80th birthday. In 1982, the Chateau Quem cigar produced by Davidoff was discontinued after the owner of Chateau de Quem wine protested over the unauthorized use of the trained name. The Chateau Monton Rothschild came out shortly after, though with a different blend and slightly different size from its predecessor. Apparently, after numerous disputes over quality and ownership rights over the brand, Zino Davidoff and Cuba Tobacco decided to end their relationship. Leading up to this, in August 1989, Zino had publicly burnt over 100,000 of his cigars that he had deemed of low quality and unfit to sell. The Cuban Davidoff line was officially discontinued in 1991 and an agreement was signed that no more Cuban Davidoffs would be sold in Davidoff's shops worldwide. A Dominican-made Davidoff cigar had already hit the market in November 1990, where production of the sizes that had been made in Cuba continues to this day. Former managers at El Laguito have claimed that the Davidoff blend was very similar to Cohiba, though with a lighter wrapper leaf. The bands used on Davidoff cigars themselves are of the same format that personalized diplomatic cigar bands had been in previous years. Adriano Martinez, a former executive Habanos SA, confirmed in Min Ronnie's illustrated encyclopedia of post-revolution Havana cigars that the Cohiba Linea 1492 was made to fill the gap left by the discontinuation of Davidoff. The huge success of the Davidoff brand may have been instrumental in making Dominican premium cigars the #1 bestsellers worldwide, though many would argue that this is solely as a result of the US embargo on Cuban cigars. In August 2006, Imperial Tobacco acquired the worldwide Davidoff cigarette trademark from its owners, Tejibo Holding AG, for £368 million, which is 540 million euros. Imperial Tobacco Group had been the license of the worldwide Davidoff cigarette trademark since its acquisition of Reemtsma in 2002. The cigarette range includes the Magnum Supreme, Classic, Mild, Lights, Magnum Lights, Slims, Super Slims, Ultra Lights, Menthol, Menthol Lights, One in Gold. Rothmans, Benson and Hedges of Canada began importing Davidoff cigarettes for sale in the Canadian market in April 2007. The Oettinger Davidoff Groups owns the worldwide Davidoff trademark for the tobacco products other than cigarettes. Davidoff cigars continue to be produced in the Dominican Republic under the direction of cigar blender Hendrik Henke Kellner. Since moving to the Dominican Republic, most of the Vueltas Vitolas were retained, although the Chateau series was renamed the Grand Cru series and the names switched from wine estates names to simply numbers, and the Dom Perignon was discontinued. Davidoff has also added an Anniversario series, a Millennium series and a special series of Figurados to its lineup, along with numerous limited edition and yearly special releases. Davidoff also produces a line of cigars known as Zino and a line of cigarillos. Beyond tobacco products, Davidoff has expanded to include under its brand such items as pipes and humidors. So we get to know about the various aspects of Davidoff. We went through the company's history to its present day scenario. Hope the information was useful to you, and have a good day ahead.